Hey, Pastor Steve Waldron. I hope you're having a great day or night in Jesus. Please check out our other videos, join us daily, and subscribe. Hit the bell notification, share with your friends, family, church family. We're looking today at what is KJVO or KJVO, well, not body odor, or King James Version onlyism. What is this? What is this? Now, those of you that are watchers of the channel, maybe even cursory watchers, but especially long-time watchers of the channel, we appreciate you. Know that I am certainly KJV best. I believe in the English-speaking people, it is the very best translation. Now, there are a lot of differentiation within the King James Version movement. You have everybody from your Dean Burgons and that group, Miller back in the day, Hoskier, and others that would say, yeah, the King James is great, we shouldn't leave it, but it has room for improvement. You would have others, you know, your David Clouds, which I really appreciate. He's a first-rate scholar, if you're not acquainted with him. Unbelievable stuff. Great. Actually, he came to the Lord in some sense through a Pentecostal minister, not of my ilk, but of another type of Pentecostal. But he's commented here on the channel, and I appreciate his works enormously on holiness and modesty and music, and we have a lot of it we agree on, and the Bible. But like he and maybe the Dean Burgon Society and D.A. Waite and some of these would have disagreements with your what was it, New Age Bible version, Gail Ripplinger, and the guy from Pensacola. I can't think of his name right now. I keep wanting to say Burgon, but it is not Burgon. But I'll probably think of it as we keep going. Pete Ruckman, and some others. They would have very stout disagreements that to certain people would say, well, we don't even know what you're disagreeing on. You know, Ruckman would make the famous statements. He's really tweaking people. He taught New Testament Greek at a college level for almost 5 decades, if not over 5 decades. And, you know, he would say that the King James corrects the original Greek, all this kind of stuff. I've made videos showing what he meant by that and how there's a certain kernel of truth in that, even though it just, people just go apoplectic when you say that. But you'd have disagreements among all of these. Your Thomas Strausses, who's fantastic. Kurt DeVitro, who's tremendous. Your Theodore Lettuce, who's phenomenal and really brought a lot of it into the mainstream. David Otis Fuller brought a lot of it into the mainstream, converted tons of people from various Greek manuscripts. And then you would have like your Hodges and Farstad, your majority text is best. Your Byzantine text is best, is another group of people. And then you'd have the Textus Receptus is best. And they're making all kinds of translations now, like the MEV off the Textus Receptus and the KJVR, which is basically King James update, simplified King James, KJV 223, a lot of things like that. But Textus Receptus best, and then and so there's a whole range of things when people say KJV only. To the point, I have been approached numerous times here on the channel by persons who would believe the 1611 with all of its printer's errors is the best translation of the Bible. You know, like your Textus Receptus people, some of them might follow the Great Bible. There's a huge group of people out there that follow the Bishop's Bible and say the Bishop's Bible is the most accurate translation, these type things. But I think what people say when they say KJV only, there's a few people that believe that the King James Version of the Bible, regardless of language, is the only translation of the Bible you should read, whether 1611, whether 1769, whether Verschuer's 1900 pure Cambridge edition, or some other thing. I tend to be more like a D.A. Waite in that any any King James you're going to get is better than the very best modern translation, just because it used better textual critical methods. And they just did it right in 1611, that 7-year period. I've gone over many videos how the steps that they took and how they were trying to do a perfect translation. They said they were trying to do a perfect translation. They felt they had succeeded in a perfect translation. All of this is in the translators to the readers, which I find so fascinating. So often people who are against the King James say, you need to read the translators to the readers. Well, I do often. I've read it through, I don't know how many times, and I've tried to do an online commentary. Hasn't gone well, just because there's so many thousands of subjects we need to do videos on for truth and all of this. But I've done 1 or 2 of those. But I have pointed things out from there that show that they thought they had done a perfect translation. And so I think when people say you're KJVO, they mean it pejoratively, negatively, almost overwhelmingly. And, you know, in the old joke, if it's good enough for Peter and Paul, it's good enough for us. We obviously know, of course, Greek, English came from Greek. I mean, that's anybody with any knowledge of languages knows that, you know. And, you know, alpha, beta, delta, you know, A, B, C, D, you know, alphabet, all of the, obviously and Greek came from Paleo-Hebrew, which anybody that knows much of any language knows that as well. And so they mean it pejoratively. And, you know, my thing is I don't know Chinese, I don't know French and all this, so I can't judge other translations. I would say for English-speaking people, King James Version is the best. And I think it was maybe David Cloud that said, as far as and D.A. Wade as well, that what they mean by, let's say the King James, if they say it's a perfect translation, that every translation in the King James is an allowable translation, whether it's Pym weights, whether it's a verse in Isaiah that's much disputed, that it is an allowable translation. And even the King James translators say, yes, of course we could have used other words, but we didn't want those words to be lost for posterity. And so we use synonyms. We didn't just slavishly use the same word for every. So that's what King James Version only is, you know, so I'm definitely King James Version best. But I do think it's a red herring to keep away from the real studies. And anytime people start throwing around words like cult and you know, just pejorative terms without thinking and meant to smear, these are all tactics of people that don't want to think. They're more propaganda than trying to get to the truth of a matter. So, and that's the reason Ruckman, you know, would say the creed of the Alexandrian cult. You know, you want to call me the KJVO only cult, I'll call you the Alexandrian cult. And they just couldn't take it, you know. He always attacked their intellects too, because knowledge puffeth up. And so he knew the way to do that was to attack their intellect. And anyhow, be sarcastic a little bit. God bless. We love you. Talk with you later. Thanks for being here. Bye-bye.